Welcome to this week Off the Court, and wow, we've got a scoop for you. I've got Tracey Neville on the line this week. She's going to be talking to us about all things netball. And Trace, welcome first of all. Thanks for joining us.
Lovely to have you. It was nice to get a text from the whole crew. Miss you guys.
We exactly. We wanted to get in touch because obviously you've gone over to Australia this year. You've joined the SSN. You're head coach of the Melbourne Mavericks, a brand new franchise. You don't do things by halves, do you? Moving from assistant coach into head coach of a brand new team. How's it all going out there?
Yeah, it's going really well. I think there's obviously been quite a few challenges, which you wouldn't expect in your first year. I think the hardest thing for us was, the CPA being delayed. I think in a way, for a business point of view, I think that was a real positive because it enabled us just to be able to get ahead of the game in respect to getting commercial partnerships, marketing and doing all that. From a high performance point of view, that's definitely not what you need when you're bringing a new team together, not to have time on court. However, you dealt the hand you deal with and you sort of move on, and that's where we are. So it was really great that before Christmas we found new and wonderful ways of connecting together. And when we come in January, it felt like we were a family. We'd known each other for years, even though we'd probably only had coffees intermittently as individuals. But I think for me as a coach, it's all about getting to know the players as well. So it was nice to, when they got into court, that they weren't just netballers, they were actually people as well. So that is something that I probably treasure in this recruitment stage.
Well, let's talk about that recruitment then, because I kind of guess it's very different back home in England. We kind of know the key players. You kind of have relationships. Obviously, you've gone from England international coach as well, and you've been at Thunder for such a long time and around the country. So that was probably, fairly straightforward. How did it work recruiting, for a brand new franchise, but also as a head coach, right? Because I always talk about it as a jigsaw puzzle. When I moved to Wasps, it was quite straightforward in terms of who I wanted to approach and go. Was it as simple as that? Did you have a wish list? Did you have certain people you wanted to approach? Like, how did it all come about?
It was a bit difficult really because we weren't allowed to approach players, and we were really restricted on what we could do prior to the sort of non-binding window opening. And then when the non-binding window opening, and you say the challenges of the CPA, it was hard for players to commit because there was no contract or no deadline in place. So in a way, that probably helped the Melbourne Mavericks because players were able to go away. We were able to have multiple conversations. There were no pressures on the players to sign or not sign. So you could actually say that actually helped us to be able to sort of go down that recruitment stage. I think from my point of view, a lot of these players I have known because with England, we were constantly doing a tracking document and updating that. And that was, I'd only been a short time out the game, really. So a lot of these players were players who had sort of established themselves or were trying to establish themselves. And I think sometimes when you go into a recruitment, I think when you're building a foundation, it's always about the future. When obviously with the Roses program, I felt the key thing was about planning beyond that 4 years rather than just looking at the now and the season. Uh-huh. So it was the style that you want to play, the people that you wanted to recruit into that. And I think the style that I wanted to play, the quickest bang for my buck was, playing the Australian style. And it's something that, Tamsin, we've had a lot of Australian coaches. We're very familiar with that sort of style and the way. And actually, it probably complements me coming from Manchester Thunder. If you look at the history of my coaching and the way that I coach, it was probably something that I wanted to do. And then the next one was I went down the whole, I would like to have recruited as many sort of home-based players as I could because you're also trying to develop a fan base, but that becomes very difficult when you've got another franchise in the state that is quite established. So that, that was the key thing around them 3 players around 3 areas. So, which then stems from our Victorian players of Gabs, Moll and Liv. And then it was then just forming partnerships around that. But it sounds like really simple, but trying to get answers out of these players at that particular time was very, very difficult. So you were sort of like, you were moving pieces in, moving pieces out. And then, and it was just trying to find connections. And, there were a few players down the line that we connected that, it just didn't work out, which then changed the way you were thinking around, in your midcourt and your different ends. And I was trying to find connections where they'd done, and, the biggest connection for me was a lot of these girls are connected in some way. So there's obviously Liv Lewis, Kim Jenner have obviously been through that sort of West Coast fever. Then you get Loz Moore, Amy Parmenter through, and even Taylor through that sort of Swift Giants pathway. And then you also got the Roses shooters. We had Sasha and Elle through the Roses pathway, who were starting to establish themselves, obviously, at the international level. And then there was obviously Maisie's connection with the ability for her to play across three positions, and also a connection with Eleanor at Adelaide. So, and with me as well. So there had to be a connection, I think. And also I wanted players that were wanting to establish themselves, wanted to make a difference. So they'd had opportunities. They'd sat behind some really key, strong defensive players through the last 1 or 2 years, and they were just waiting to get their shot. And I think that was something that was really key for me, that these were players that were going to be around for the next 2 to 3 years. So that actually what you could do is just maybe spice up a little each year as you go through. And there's different ways you can attack it. You can go in and get like Collingwood at the start and just go and get all the best players in the league or the best Aussie players, or you can go in and go, right, I want players who want to take their netball to the next level. And that was really important for me to build this foundation team, but also establishing some players around them key areas as well. So you see, obviously, Elle is, now one of the world's best shooters. You've got Amy Parmenter, who is I think she'll start to establish herself in that wing defence role. And then it's just looking, I think the next one, potentially around that defensive area, who's that going to be? Australia's striving out for defenders, and I think Kim Jenner has got a lot to offer, having watched her over the last few years as well, and Liv Lewis and obviously Loz Moore. So I think it was just more around that. I think everyone thinks it was really easy to recruit.
I know it's not. I know recruitment is the worst, and you're hanging on phone calls, and you have a positive conversation with the player, and then they're talking to 3 other teams, and like you say, the moving parts become almost impossible.
And to be honest, like, there's not many ends out there. So, I feel like there's a lot of established midcourt out there, but there's not many defenders out there, even if you look through, so when you're recruiting, everybody wants the defenders. And bearing in mind at the time, New Zealand and England had already signed their players. So, you were fighting a lot of battles coming into this recruitment stage and what you wanted. But in the end, I felt that, well, now obviously we're still recruiting, but I felt at the time I really had a 10, that I was really excited about. And I think I really wanted to grow, and, over the next 2 years, that hopefully will happen.
Well, I'm intrigued. I want to pick up on that then, because I quite like some of the stuff you were talking about, this sort of Aussie style and how you want to play and how you develop that team. But I'm also intrigued because you've come from assistant coach at Thunderbirds, and you've gone and taken on this massive role, right? And there's a heap of pressure there. I want to touch base on that in a moment. But in terms of those recruitment, you kind of talked about players that want to build and want to show what they're about. Is that kind of reflective on where you feel you are as a coach at the minute as well, about coming into this league and going, right, I want to just show you what I'm about here. I want to come in and I want to show the style that I want to play, and I want to be the person that I want to be? Because there is there must be still a lot of chat around an English coach heading up an SSN team.
No, I don't think so. I think it was more that I need players to grow. This is a franchise. One of the key things that we discussed with the management was, are we? I've come from a heritage, and yourself, that it was always, we've got to win a bronze medal, or we've got to do that. And it isn't about that when you go in, because what you need is the undercore challenge the upper core and the established. And if you look at all the established franchises around the world, those that continue to keeping themselves in there, so they might not win it every year, but they keep their, I was with a player yesterday who'd been at a franchise for like 10 years. The longevity of that is so important. moving players in. So when we moved players here, it wasn't just about moving them, it was about moving their lives here. So we wanted their boyfriends to come and get jobs here. So that was really important for us. It was about establishing their life in Melbourne so that they actually never wanted to leave here unless they had to. So, there was more to it than that. And the foundation players are the ones that I feel are the ones that are underestimated. So when you set up the roses, the foundation players were the ones that were in the program all the time. The ones that come in intermittently were the ones that improved the environment, and that is something that I feel really important about. Yeah. That when I said to the bosses, how long are you around for? If you're around for 1 year, that it changes. But you also, Tamsin, you're on the live that these players are going to wanted to have to move as well to your franchise, and with what happened at Collywood, they knew nothing about Melbourne Mavericks. They're having to make decisions, and sometimes it's the better devil you know than the devil you don't, and I think that is something you were always facing as well. But yeah, I feel that now we've built. I do feel that with the established 10 we did recruit, I felt that these were players that had the capacity to grow over the season, were coachable, and were where I wanted to take this team, and I felt that for me, it was really exciting, like to develop that Sasha Eleanor combination, to bring 3 Australian defenders, and obviously I recruited Nicole Richardson as well, the Aussie defensive coach, for her to work with them on a daily basis to to improve that. I think that was really important. Bearing in mind, like Richo had been working with a Jamaican and English defender for a long time in Collingwood, and I said, now is your time to start developing people for your country. And I think that's important as well. So the coach recruitment as well was important around that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's been quite interesting to see how you've pulled this group together. I'm intrigued with the whole Nicole partnership. How has that been? Because obviously she's gone from that head coach into an assistant role as well, but has been doing that with the Diamonds. And you've had plenty of opportunity. You've obviously sat with Tanya in that first year at Thunderbirds. You did that role with Greggy as well, where we all went, okay, you're going to come in and sit and support. Like, do you think those roles have become more sort of crossover now? Do you think it's less about one person at the top leading all the way? Do you think it's better? Because I actually think as a sport, we're kind of behind on it. You work in football, you work in rugby, you've got loads of specialist coaches that are trusted to lead sessions and develop and do. Do you think that's definitely starting to shift now? And is that something that's happening out in Oz?
Do you know our assistant coach is way more fun? It is so
I know.
Someone said to me one day that you could never be an assistant coach, and I actually doubted whether I could actually be one. But I had so much fun under like my good friends Tanya and Greggy. But I just with this, bringing Richo in, I feel when you recruit an assistant coach, I think sometimes head coaches make mistakes. So you always try and get someone who is better than you or can challenge you. And also, I feel that assistant coach role now has changed. People go in there and say, I want a development coach. I want someone that sits under me. I think that this level, you need a head coach. So anyone who says that they've got an assistant coach that's not a head coach, that is a real struggle, because, if I think about what Richo does in this environment, she knows what it means to be a head coach. She's been there, she's done it, and she can take off a lot of stuff from me and take responsibility. True. The assistant coach role now, it's probably underestimated. What you do all the things you love, but you don't do all the other things that you hate. So you actually do the bits that you actually love. So you're actually now not just there assisting me. So I don't take every session. She has a role in this team to coach, and she has sessions that she leads on. There's a responsibility and a trust around us both. And, you say you never develop another great friend, but honestly, she is brilliant. She keeps me sane every single day. She's an absolute comic, and makes me laugh when I need to. And you think you don't really get that rapport. That's really hard to get rapport with coaches like that. But I feel that I took my time over making that decision about what my team needed. And we definitely were bringing, obviously, a new defensive unit together. That was important that I had a really strong defensive coach, and she was the best advert, and it's the best decision I made coming into this program.
Yeah, it's quite interesting you say that, because I know when I was at Scotland and I was thinking about who I wanted, and it was a very short list, but Sarah was obviously top of that list. And I do remember you say about it being an easier gig. the first session we had her in, I came down to breakfast and she was sat in the hotel with all the girls having breakfast with them. They'd never bloody invited me over for breakfast one morning at all. And I come down, she's best friends with them all. So it's definitely a role. And it's great to see that partnership and also that learning. I want to touch on, you talked about how important it was to make sure the players felt like they were home. You know, you wanted homegrown talent, but you know you've had to bring players in. You talked about bringing their boyfriends across and work and all that kind of stuff. How's that sitting with you then? Because it was a lovely article from your brother talking about how proud he was and how incredible it was for you to do what you do. And it's still fairly unusual for a female to move the other side of the world, to follow their passion and dream, knowing you've got your little one as well. How are you finding it? And as that sort of family environment really shifted for you, is that something you can just go, right, work is work, this is this? How is that all integrating?
I think I have a really supportive family, very supportive. And, you know, my company does definitely need, he needs a medal for putting up with some. But to be honest, he from day one when I met him, he always knew I wanted to coach out in Australia. And I actually thought that dream was over, taking the roses, because generally your international career generally dictates the rest of your other career if you look at past coaches. I knew this year I had to make sacrifices, but I felt that I made giving up the England job, having Nev, has been the best 3 years of my life. But I want to work. I'm so hungry to be a coach. I want to get back head coaching again. I wanted to be, I want to get back in there. And I know this year that there's going to have to be sacrifices. There is going to be long periods of time I'm not going to see my son. There's going to be long periods of time I'm not going to see my family. But we've made it work as a family, and that for me is what makes it important. So as long as I know them windows are short and, financially we can manage this, I think it works beautifully. And, there's something quite special because I feel that when Michael is out here, he spends a lot more time with my son, whereas at home, he works a long time. So in a way, as a family, living out here has been really positive. It's very, very difficult because he works nights and I work days. So that is struggling in respect to but I absolutely love doing what I'm doing. And he actually loves being out here and loves supporting me. And, like I say, his job at the moment is full on. So he's having to fly back to and from the UK. But at the moment, we're making it work. And I think that's what's all important at the moment. And, I do actually like living out here in Australia, and I love the netball. I love being in a high performance environment, and I love going every single day to work. And that is something that I've seen Gary and Phil do since the age of 16. And, I've only ever had that opportunity since I got England, because even at Manchester Thunder, I don't get that opportunity to go out every single day and work. So for me, this is exactly where I want women's sport to go. I want everyone to feel that every day you're going out to do the passion that you love. And Australia gives me that. Like, Tamsin, if I showed you the facilities that I'm in at the moment, this is just here, like there's 4 courts down there are just hours, like all day from 8 till 4. Like, would you get that in England? And I just hope one day that we do.
I mean, you're making me want to get on a plane, Trace. You literally make me want to get on a plane. You've fitted right in. You've gone proper blonde out there as well. You're a proper Aussie now. You come back like a twang like all the others do. I think we're not going to be
I don't think I'll ever lose this accent.
I'm actually quite intrigued because I've worked with you as a player and as a coach, and I've seen your progression over the years, and it's been really, really impressive. And I know how passionate you are about. Do you feel pressure? Do you ever feel the pressure? Because I know you kind of fobbed me off there with the whole, like, I'm an England coach out here. It's not. There must be an element of, I want to prove myself. I want to do this as well. Because we're all winners, right? We want to do that. But do you ever flinch, or is it just you've got to this stage now where you're like, no, that's how I coach. That's how I operate.
Yeah, do you know what? It's interesting how you define pressure. Because why do we do, like, seriously, would we work in this job?
Because we're nuts.
Yeah, exactly. So it depends how you define pressure. There's pressure on everything that you do. Like, I come from a world where, my brother walked in one day and walked out of a job the next day. So, life at this is, it can be so short, So, but the excitement around that is unbelievable. The thrill, like, of doing something like this is, I don't know, I just love it. I absolutely love it. And, you know, is the pressure going in, you know, we've got game one, we've got a really tough game against the Vixens on Sunday. We obviously lost two of our key players going into that game. Is there a pressure that, you know, I feel that the pressure's a good pressure, but I also feel that, you know, if I dwelled on the fact that we don't have them two key players, then what you've done, you've lost sight of what you want to achieve this year. And the absolute sight of this year was about building a foundation for this club to move forward into the future. And that is something that I keep going back to. And, you know, people come into these jobs and just, you know, focus on winning. And I absolutely love winning. I absolutely love winning. And what I do is I keep going back to, you know, our document of what we wanted to achieve this season. And we just keep on, you say about the process, but that has to happen. You know, in this league, you know, I think Thunderbirds last year had won 8 games before they got to final. Like everyone here, that I think winning 60% of the games here gets you to finals. That is what it's like. This league is how close it is. And you saw Team Girls Cup and how close the games were there, and it's just so exciting. And the one thing that we need to do, which is the hardest thing as a start franchise, is about learning to win and learning to take away the critical moments. And that is something that we've had, you know, we have to try and do over what we've only been on court for 2 months. But, you know, we'll get some scrapes, we'll get some losses, you know, but what it'll do is every single day will make us better. And I feel that that's where our improvement is. You know, we went out training on Monday, we improved. We went out training Tuesday, we improved again. Wednesday, we went back to some of our old traits. Thursday, we went back out and learned. So, you know how coaching is. It's a constant roller coaster. And is the pressure around that? Yeah, but why are we in this?
Yeah. No, I know. I'm just intrigued. Intrigued. It's the big job. Like I know England's
coach.
Yeah. I miss it. I do. I really miss it. I miss the buzz. I miss everything that you're talking about. And I get it. I'm just intrigued because it's a different step. You know, the England job is the England job, but you kind of know it because you know the system, you know the players. But out there it is different. And, you know, I'm intrigued to know how much of a sort of imprint you can have on your own style that before they go, I'm not keen on this. Because I know that imports have come over. I know Sarah Francis Bayman's over there now. There's different things starting to happen. But at the same time, there is an Australian history that is a conveyor belt of talent. And I'm more intrigued about, you know, can you sway away a little bit from it, or has it got to be the Aussie way? And I guess you'd know that because you were at Thunderbirds. Yeah,
I actually really enjoy their mentality around stuff. You know, when I watch Richo, I'm not calling Nicole Richardson because it just doesn't feel right, but I love it when I watch Richo coach. She's a mean coach. Do you know what I mean? She's mean. Like, I love it, but she's
meaner than you. Meaner than you.
She's hard. She's lean, you know, like, and I just love that. Like, Tamsin, when do we get exposed to that? Like, we've been exposed to a little bit as a player, but just to experience them different coaching environments. So, you know, you talk about being out here, but it's also, I want to learn, I want to develop, I want to, you know, and yeah, did I come into the biggest boot of it all? Of course, because, you know, you don't know the system, but, you know, there's someone that does, and I'm not scared to ask questions. And when I went into the England job, everyone, you know, you think you know that role, but you actually don't. You think it's just coaching, but that role was a really, really tough role. Like probably one of the toughest 2 years of my coaching. So when I come in here and it's tough, it's really tough. But do you know what? Every day I learn something different. So going into year 2, I'll be better. But I also expect these players to be better as well. So I think from my point of view, it's not just about me, it's about the whole team. I expect our staff to be better. You know, some of these staff have never worked in high performance in netball. So, you know, we do make mistakes. But the difference is now, Tamsin, I'm a little bit more relaxed. As one player pointed out, I don't really leave people at roundabouts anymore when they're late. I'm a little bit more relaxed on that.
I like this, Tracey, the relaxed. Quickly, because I know you've got to go off and get to analysis meeting. You've got important work to do today, but I've got a couple more questions. You showed me your new fancy office. We know England are going to go professional next year. How much of a jump are we talking seriously? Because I know there's been a shift in everything out there. Like, you know, are we I know we can't do it instantly, but what are kind of the biggest shifts we're going to have to realise?
It's got to be financial. If you think where we financially get our funding from here, we're supported by the television deal, we're supported by the governing body, we're supported by partnerships. The amount of money that franchises get, like for franchises to go out there financially on their own is going to be a huge battle. Not to have that sustainability as a support system around them, or even just a baseline, that is going to be the difficult. And then the next one is Tamsin. It's about venues and playing. My mission was to always make the sport professional, always from the start. I wanted every single girl in the clubs to go out and do what they love to do. But the financial implication around that is huge. But also the thing that comes on top of that, I didn't even realise this, but, 2 of our players have now got injured. Well, they're insured now. So actually we can, we get that insurance money back, where in England, franchises are holding them costs. You don't even realise what you actually have to do. Even the event this weekend at the John Cain Arena, just even putting that on. And you had one at Wembley, which was amazing at weekend. And it was so lovely. Like, I just remember one of my first England, coaching there, just to coach there and experience that as a player is massive. It's always been the heritage of sport. And, to sustain that every single week, there's franchises out here who can't do that. And how long have they been professionally been in that game? So I think from our, it's a lot more than netball. Out here, there's governments involved. There's a lot more huger organisations involved, and that takes a whole work crew. If I look the work crew that we've formed over this time, there were me involved at the start, and then it sort of escalated on. But the work crew that's around us, whereas at Manchester Thunder, they have one full-time employer, and that's the head coach. It's just going to be a massive uphill battle. But do you know what, Tamsin? I'm full support if that's everything in sport's about risk. And I really want to see our franchises at home and the people who work behind the scenes, get some of the pleasure that they've been working a long time for.
Yeah, look, I agree. There's got to be a shift, and at some point we've got to jump 2-footed in. But I think this is the key when we talk about one little thing, whether it's getting performances better or what does that look like. There is so much stuff behind the scenes. And just going full time is not a magic wand. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The financial implications are going to be huge. Just a quick one on this. Your fan base, have you taken a lot of Collingwood fans, or have you been able to go out and just go brand new, or what's that look like?
Are you joking? How do I know?
Well, because
do you know what the greatest thing about this job is? That is not my area. Where at Manchester Thunder, that would be my area as well. Like, I'm just turning up on Sunday and going, voila.
You know what? God, I need to get out to Australia. That sounds far more fun. Right. Well, on that note, I'm going to leave you on this. We usually do a little thing with our guests, and I found out that a Maverick is the ultimate Maverick is strong, fearless, and a trailblazer. Is that a good way to describe you, Nev?
Can you ask me this in July?
Hang on. You did say at the start of this interview off air, you went, God, we get weathered out here. Like, coaches, like...
You get taxis out here and you get planes, by the way.
Well, on that note, I'm going to go. You have convinced me you are strong. You are definitely the trailblazer. Look, we are so proud of you back here. I mean, the shift we've seen over the last 10 years in terms of players going out to play overseas and proving themselves, the jump we've had internationally to close that gap. And now the respect we have worldwide with players, people like you going out there, with Sarah going out there, is a massive, massive jump in the right direction for us. And it's only going to help our game back home if we can ever get you back, which will be nice.
Are you coming?
I'd like a Tanya at some point. I'd be out there. Maybe just to be one of your Maverick supporters, Trace. I'll be there.
We've got some English fans in the crowd actually on Sunday.
No, cheap ticket. But honestly, look, loads of luck. We know it's the Melbourne Derby this weekend. We cannot wait to watch SSN. If you can find out how we can watch it over here, I'd be great. I get about 1 billion DMs asking me how I'm going to watch the game. So ask one of you staff how we do that. Good luck, and please keep in touch. But yeah, we're rooting for you.
See you later. Thank you. Bye.